Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Amen. Hails and welcome. Okay, no time to waste here. Let's start off where we left off. That's going to be Genesis chapter 5. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and begat a son in his own likeness, and after his image, and called his name Seth. And the days of Adam, after he had begotten Seth, were 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years, and he begat Enos. And Seth lived, after he begot Enos, 807 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years, and begot Cainan. And Enos lived, he begot Cainan 850 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. And Cainan lived 70 years, and he begot Mahalaleel. And Cainan lived, after he begot Mahalaleel, 840 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Cainan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahalaleel lived 65 years, and he begot Jared. And Mahalaleel lived, after he begot Jared, 830 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalaleel were 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived 162 years, and he begot Enoch. And Jared lived, after he begot Enoch, 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years, and begot Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God, after he begot Methuselah, 300 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And Methuselah lived 800 years and 7 years, and begot Lamech. And Methuselah lived, after he begot Lamech, 782 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 802 years, and begot a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, This shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed. And Lamech lived, after he begot Noah, 595 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay, yep. So, just getting there, the family history and some genealogy. As you can tell, their lifespan was far greater than ours will ever be, which indicates the atmosphere and the environment and the earth was new, fresh, pure, untainted with poisons and modern chemicals, chemtrails, vaccines, all that garbage of modern day society. Okay, let's move on. Genesis chapter 6, King James Version. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of the men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 112 years. I'm sorry, that was 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. And God saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man who I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. And Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth was also corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon earth. And God said unto Noah, The end of all flesh is coming before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood, room shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch it within and without with pitch. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make of it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. A window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above. And the door of the ark shalt thou set it side thereof, with lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth, to destroy all flesh wherein, in the breath of life, from under heaven, and everything that is in earth shall die. But with thee will I establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou, and thy sons, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female, of fowls after their kind, and of cattle after their kind, of every creeping thing of the earth after his kind. 2 of every sort shall come unto thee, to keep them alive. And take thou unto thee of all food that is eaten, and thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall be for food for thee and for them. And thus did Noah according to all that God commanded him, so did he. Okay, so chapter 6, God's cleaning house, or he's preparing to. Noah is a trustworthy man. He comes from a good lineage. That's why they go in chapter 5 explain where Noah came from, and everything's wicked on the earth. it's like that taxi driver. Someday a rain will come and wash away all the scum and filth, and that's what's about to happen in this book, and what it's about to happen in reality with the rapture. The plan is to have everything genetically modified, mutated, abominated, and it's going to have to all be eliminated and destroyed, just for the greater good, because it's nothing but violence and filth now. So let's move on. Chapter 7. And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean, by two, the male and his female. Of fowls also of the air by sevens, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made I will destroy from the face of the earth. And Noah did according unto all the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood. Of clean beasts, and of beasts that are not clean, and of fowls, and everything that creepeth upon the earth. There went in two and two unto Noah into the ark, the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 7th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. And the rain was upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. And the selfsame day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth and sons of Noah, and Noah's wife and 3 wives of his sons with them into the ark. They and every beast after this kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and every fowl after his kind, every bird of every sort. And they went in unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. And they went in male and female of all flesh, as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased and bare up the ark, and it was lift up above the earth. And the waters prevailed and were increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went upon the face of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl and of cattle and of beasts, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man. All in whose nostrils was the breath of life, of all that was in the dry land died. And every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle, and the creeping things, and the fowl of the heaven. And they were destroyed from the earth, and Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. Okay, yep, so God's cleaning house, getting rid of all the unclean people, and It's just Noah and his family on the ark with all the animals. Okay, chapter 8. And God remembered Noah and every living thing and all the cattle that was with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged. The fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. And the waters returned from off the earth continually, and after the end of 150 days the waters were abated. And the ark rested in the 7th month, and on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the 1st day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. And he sent forth a raven, which went forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from the earth. Also he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her foot, and she returned unto him into the ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. Then he put forth his hand and took her and pulled her into him into the ark. And he stayed yet another 7 days, and again he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came into him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucketh off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. And he stayed yet other 7 days, and sent forth the dove, which returned not again unto him any more. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the 1st month, the 1st day of the month, the waters were dried up off the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. And in the 2nd month, on the 7th and 20th day of the month, was the earth dried. And God spake unto Noah, saying, Go forth of the ark, thou and thy wife, and thy sons wives with thee. Bring forth with thee every living thing that is with thee, of all flesh, both of fowl and of cattle, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, that they may breed abundantly in the earth, and be fruitful and multiply upon the earth. And Noah went forth, and his sons and his wife's sons with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, and every fowl, and whatsoever creepeth upon the earth after their kinds went forth out of the ark. And Noah builded an altar unto the Lord, and took of every clean beast and every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled a sweet savor. And the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more every living thing as I have done. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, in cold heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. Okay, so there you have it. The rain stopped, the earth was dry, and it's time for Noah and his family and all the animals to go and repopulate the earth. And you can see Salt Lake City, the Salt Lake, a lot of ocean waters around the world basically prove this is actually the truth. And what else was important here? Yeah, it's just not much to say here, So male and female, That's all there is to it. Okay? God created Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. You heard it here first. Okay, now let's switch gears here. And that's what we're going to do at the Theocratic Disciple. We're going to get into some law here. So, I'm just thinking about sovereignty and government name and nature. So, I'm just going to read a little bit of this for you here. Okay. So, just creating a self-government federation is really important and something I want to do in my life. I want to abandon the satanic government and create something as close to the theocracy that will be apparent on Earth soon. So it's just going to be a prelude to that. And these states are also described in the de jure United States Constitution. And that's why our founding fathers came to this great country to be free, to practice a religion freely. And so self-government federations shall be a foreign state in relation to de facto corporate governments illegally in possession and control of power in the United States of America. But our Constitution, laws, and allegiances are directed at the same group of people that the de facto government is supposed to protect and serve, but in fact does not. Any decision to affiliate politically with the state established by this government shall not constitute an intention to abandon nationality within any other state to which citizens may already have allegiance or membership at the time of their decision to so affiliate. The measure, the standard, and the absolute unchanging benchmark by which we fulfill our allegiance to protect the people of the de jure states is the authority only of the Creator's law, as documented below. The authority of the Creator's law is an absolute measure of how we love our neighbor, and it's already been recognized by the founding fathers. Good and wise men in all ages have supposed that the deity, from the relations we stand in to himself and to each other, has constituted an eternal and immutable law which is indispensably obligatory upon all mankind prior to any human institution whatsoever. This is what is called the law of nature, which, being co-equal with mankind and dictated by God himself, is, of course, superior in obligation to any other. It is binding over all the globe, in all countries, at all times. No human laws are of any validity if contrary to this, and such of them as are valid derive only their authority mediately or immediately from this original. And that's quoted from Blackstone. Upon this law depend the natural rights of mankind. The Supreme Being gave existence to man together with the means of preserving and beautifying that existence. He endowed him with rational faculties by the help of which to discern and purpose such things as were consistent with his duty and interest, and invested him with an inviolable right to personal liberty and personal safety. Hence, in a state of nature, no man has any moral power to deprive another of his life, limbs, property, or liberty, nor the least authority to command or exact obedience from him, except that which arose from the ties of consanguinity. Hence also the origin of all civil government, justly established, must be a voluntary compact between the rulers and the ruled, and must be liable to such limitations as are necessary for the security of the absolute rights of the latter, for which what original title can any man or set of men have to govern others except their own consent? To usurp dominion over a people in their own despite, or to grasp at more extensive power than they are willing to entrust, it is to violate that law of nature which gives every man the right to his personal liberty and can therefore confer no obligation to obedience. Alexander Hamilton, 23rd of February, 1775. Okay, and why this government was re-established. The Declaration of Independence declares that all just powers of government derive from the consent of the governed. The Declaration asserts that when a government becomes unjust, such as when they rule by force or fraud rather than by consent, it is not only the right but the duty of every citizen to abandon that government and create their own better government. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. From the Declaration of Independence. So basically, the Declaration of Independence makes it our solemn duty to govern ourselves by creating a government that is efficient, responsive, and directly accountable to the people. When the government we have doesn't provide that, it is our right and duty to provide a substitute that we will in fact consent to. In firing the existence corporate government from our lives and providing an alternate, there are two types of new governments that anyone may adopt in order to replace the corrupted one. You can either be man-made or creator-made. If one adopts a man-made substitute that is other than the de jure government, then shifting your allegiance to that government may become expatriating act pursuant to 8 U.S.C. Section 1481, Article 2. It is therefore important in professing allegiance to our changing our domicile to a new political group that we manifest our intentions regarding any other existing nationality we may have at that time. So here we go. Title 8, Chapter 12, Subchapter 3, Part 3, Section 1481. Section 1481, Loss of Nationality by Native-born or Nationalized Citizen, Voluntary Action, Burden of Proof, Presumptions. Here we go, Part A. A person who is a national of the United States, whether by birth or naturalization, shall lose his nationality by voluntarily performing any of the following acts with the intention of relinquishing United States nationality. Okay, 1. Obtaining naturalization in a foreign state upon his own application or upon an application filed by a duly authorized agent after having attained the age of 18 years, or taking an oath or making an affirmation or other form declaration of allegiance to a foreign state or a political subdivision thereof after having attained the age of 18 years. However, if that government is a creator-made government, the First Amendment protects religious exercise, and therefore you cannot be punished for your religious exercise of putting allegiance to Creator and His government above allegiance to the state. And I think that's what we need. We need a creator-made state, something that's based on thousands of years of tradition and truth. Building your house on a good, solid rock foundation, like it says in the Bible, not on sand like it currently has gotten to. I think the founding fathers had the foresight to see that what they created wasn't going to last forever. So that's why they made instructions of how to make something that they've already made, just a continuum. So let's just finish this part up here, okay? Much has been said of the paramount duty to the state, a duty to be recognized. It is urged, even though it conflicts with convictions of duty to God. Undoubtedly, that duty to the state exists within the domain of power, for government may enforce obedience to laws regardless of scruples. When one's belief collides with the power of the state, the latter is supreme with its fear and submission, or punishment follows. But in the forum of conscious duty to a moral power higher than the state has always been maintained, the reservation of that supreme obligation as a matter of principle would unquestionably be made by many of the constituents and law-abiding citizens. The essence of religion is belief in a relation to God involving duties superior to those arising from any human relation. As was stated by Mr. Justice Field in David versus Beeson, U.S. 333-342, the term religion has reference to one's views of his relations to his Creator and to the obligations they impose of reverence for his being and character and obedience to his will. One cannot speak of religious liberty with proper appreciation of its essential and historic significance without assuming the existence of a belief in supreme allegiance to the will of God. Professor McIntosh, when pressed by the inquiries put to him, stated, "What is axiomatic in religious doctrine, and putting aside dogmas with their particular conceptions of deity, freedom, and conscience itself implies respect for an innate conviction of paramount duty. The battle for religious liberty has been fought and won with respect to religious beliefs and practices which are not in conflict with good order upon the very ground of the supremacy of conscience within its proper field. What that field is under our system of government presents in part a question of constitutional law and also in part of legislative policy in avoiding unnecessary clashes with the dictates of conscience. There is abundant room for enforcing the requisite authority of law as is enacted and requires obedience, and for maintaining the conception of the supremacy of law as essential to orderly government without demanding that either citizens or applicants for citizenship shall assume by oath an obligation to regard allegiance to God as subordinate to allegiance to civil power. The attempt to exact such a promise and thus to bind one's conscience by taking of oaths or the submission to tests has been the cause of many deplorable conflicts. The Congress has sought to avoid such conflicts in this country by respecting our happy tradition. In no sphere of legislation has the intention to prevent such clashes been more conspicuous than in relation to bearing of arms. It requires strong evidence that the Congress intended a reversal of its policy in prescribing the general terms of the neutralization oath. I find no such evidence. Okay, and that was a reading from Self-Government Federation, Articles of Confederation. And this is written by the Sovereignty, Education, and Defense Federation. Go ahead and go over to http://sedm.org, and you can find this there. So, yeah, it just seems like what the Founding Fathers created, it's all trying to be reversed now, or as actually being reversed. And yeah, their powers of be, the self-appointed publics, not the public-appointed public servants, think they're gods and want this to become a communist oligarchy, and we're heading that way quick. So give this good book a read. I'll do more readings from it. And let's see here. Yeah, you can find some really good stuff on the website. Sovereign Christian Marriage. And this book is really cool. So let's see here. The Sovereign Christian Marriage book explains the legal and spiritual foundations of marriage. It explains in detail why you don't want to get married with a marriage license. So people are commonplace asking permission from the state if they can get married. So this book is going to provide forms and instructions that's going to show you how to get an entirely contractual marriage in holy matrimony that is completely free from state involvement and or a state marriage license, by which retains all of the essential advantages of a marriage license by replacing it with a private contract between the two parties. So that's going to be a theme in this channel, breaking away from state control of our lives and getting back to a republic law under God's laws. All right, and now would be a good chance to segue into some Dr. Frederick Graves. And this is called The Need for Change. Okay, in the preface of Charles Dickens' novel Hard Times, wherein he tells the sad truth about life for the masses in mid-19th century England, he writes, "The poor you will have always with you. Cultivate in them, while there is yet time, the utmost graces of the fancies and affections, to adorn their lives so much in need of ornament, or in the day of your triumph, when romance is utterly driven out of their souls, when they in a bare existence stand face to face, reality will take a wolfish turn and make an end of you." Here sits a modern-day American Indian begging by the wall that borders an impressive government building. He wears modern clothes, but his gray hair tells us he is not a young man. And his knapsack tells us he has all he owns with him as he sits near this public building. Okay, this dog is just going through heat and going wild, sorry. Okay, many of his ancestors were wiped out by the Europeans determined to drive such people from the land where modern structures would replace forests and river valleys with what today we call essential conveniences. Yet Dickens's prediction remains as true today as it was nearly 200 years ago. And if we do not do all we can to cultivate in all people the utmost graces to adorn their lives, then when our modern way has driven hope from their souls, when they in a bare existence stand face to face, we may see reality take that wolfish turn of which Charles Dickens warned the leaders of this time and make an end of us. Albert Pike wrote, also nearly 200 years ago, that a man will not longer suffer himself to be whipped, and the underworld is forever a danger to us all. Let kindness temper and public education temper our American justice. We of American Justice Foundation pray you will work in any way you can to make our nation just by promoting greater understanding of the rule of law and the principles and practices of due process in our courts. It has never been before, as it must be if we are to survive the coming age when there is not enough food, not enough water, not enough shelter from the elements of nature to protect everyone. Lest reality take a wolfish turn. This is a man's home in San Francisco. He walks down by the docks, sitting all alone, out of everyone's way, just asking for help from the people of a nation he served as a soldier. Most of what you see is stuff he gathered along the way. He has no TV, no microwave ovens, no refrigerator, nor even an engine on his bike to help him climb the San Francisco hill. That's his home, all his earthly belongings. Everything he owns is piled up and tied to his old bicycle. His bed is a sleeping bag he uses to add a bit of comfort to a park bench where he sits without hope, without love, without justice. He doesn't drink. He doesn't use drugs. He wants food. This busy city and its thousands of visiting tourists pass him by. He is a homeless veteran of our armed services living on the streets of one of our most affluent cities, begging for food in a nation that has forgotten him and his brothers in arms. It was not this way when I was a boy. I was born in 1943 and grew up in the post-war era when, for a season at least, we were kinder to each other, sharing a sense of union born of the necessity of struggling as united people against foreign foes in what could have been a global catastrophe. Today we are drifting away from what is just. America the beautiful, yes, it is still beautiful. But are we just? America the just? Not yet, not for all. And that's Dr. Frederick Graves for you. Good stuff there. He makes a good point. People are just seems like they don't care as much, but there's still good people out there, and we got to embrace those people, and we have to pray for everybody. Treat everyone as you want to be treated, and that's Dr. Frederick Graves. If you like that, if you want to learn about the law, he teaches jurisdictionary and how to win in court without a lawyer, which You're going to need that. And there's going to be a link down in the description to go to howtowinitcourt.com. And of course, you get what you pay for. There's a lot of gems in here, and he sets it all up for you. So if you want to learn how to present yourself and not be represented with a bunch of fees and have to hire someone and just know about the law and help your family and your friends, it's that easy. Just go over there, study the law. And yep, I think we're gonna end it there. This dog is going through heat. I had to stop and go a bunch, but that's life. The show must go on. And thank you for listening. Praise Jesus. Amen.